Chair recognizes the senator from Arkansas.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same week the President released his national security strategy, a pilot in the Royal Jordanian Air Force was burned alive by radical Islamists. While the administration was putting the finishing touches on this document, the propaganda wing of ISIS was busy too. The jihadist group was pumping out a video of this latest act of horrific brutality. ISIS represents one of the biggest threats to peace of an already unstable region. These terrorists are committed to establishing a new caliphate ruled by Sharia law, where all would be forced to convert or die. They are committed to destroying all who stand in their way. If anyone embodies radical Islam, it is ISIS. Given the severity of the threat posed by ISIS, not to mention the continuing efforts of al-Qaeda to strike again, you would think a plan to take on radical Islam would be a focal part of the President's national security plan. It's not. In fact, there is no mention of radical Islam in the document at all. What is mentioned instead is global warming. Yes, global warming is discussed in the President's national security strategy, but not radical Islamic extremism. Apparently, that's not a threat to the United States. The President and his advisors have stood by this senseless narrative. In a lengthy interview with Vox, the President essentially blamed the media for overhyping the threat of terrorism. He went on to say that terrorism sells, and I quote, "It's all about the ratings." And climate change, I quote, "a hard story for the media to tell on a day-to-day basis." Just yesterday, the White House spokesman was pressed on this very issue and refused to accept the premise that terror groups like ISIS pose a greater, clear, and present danger than global warming. So you can see the disconnect that exists within the administration, but it doesn't end just with this document. The President's budget proposal for the Department of Homeland Security would allocate tens of millions of dollars to protect against climate change. It does so while failing to dedicate funds for communities to identify and disrupt homegrown terror, despite the fact that ISIS is recruiting foreign fighters at a clip never seen before. While the majority of them are from the Middle Eastern nations, the Wall Street Journal reports that upwards of 20,000 foreign fighters have joined ISIS in the past 2 years. The group's savvy usage of social media and its highly orchestrated propaganda campaign has appealed to Westerners as well, bringing thousands of jihadists with passports that allow them to travel with ease to ISIS-controlled territory, where they will ultimately take the deadly skills they learned in Iraq and Syria remains to be seen. But these foreign fighters could return home or even come to the United States, giving ISIS the ability to strike on American soil. The recent attacks in Paris serve as a vivid reminder that the reach of radical Islam extends far beyond the jihadi fighters on the ground in Iraq and in Syria. Meanwhile, the Democrats in this chamber, at the behest of the President, are holding up the House-passed DHS appropriations bill. Senate Democrats have voted 3 times to filibuster the House-passed Department of Homeland Security funding bill last week. Their objection, it withholds funding for the President's unconstitutional executive actions on immigration. They are holding up the entire bill, threatening to shut down DHS to protect the President's priorities. Not because the funding is too low, not because programs need reforms. Their complaint is that the President isn't getting what he wants. I encourage them to relent on their filibuster so we can debate the bill, make changes if the chamber sees fit, and send it to the President. If the President truly wants immigration reform, then do it the right way and work with Congress to get it done. Don't go about it on your own unconstitutionally, and then threaten to shut down a department charged with protecting Americans. It's out of touch, but it's not the first time this administration's priorities have been at odds with those of the American people. The President once characterized ISIS as the JV team. This is no JV team. As the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee noted, ISIS is the largest convergence, and I quote, ISIS is the largest convergence of Islamist terrorists in history. that has created a pseudo-state dead set on attacking America. Preventing ISIS from achieving its goals takes a clear, forceful security strategy, both abroad and at home. What the President has put forward is neither. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.